Ernie Dillard was a auto worker at the Fleetwood plant in Detroit, and he was recruited by Johnny Anderson. And he neither, I had no special relationship with him in the sense that I was from Chicago, and he was a leader, not just in Detroit, but in the black work in the party, and he had a certain small prominence nationally. As long as he was in the SWP, and he was in the, and he left with the group in Detroit and was part of the leadership there that took the lead in establishing the American Socialist. He had a fine reputation, and when the American Socialist dissolved and everybody was set loose, so to speak, with the understanding politically that we would meet someday in the emerging labor movement. Ernie, as I understand it, very quickly became co-opted in the UAW bureaucracy and became part of the staff. The last time I saw him, which was 19 years ago, I think I saw him in LA. He was he was retired. He was very taken with the success of his kids in this society, one in the non-profit world and the other in the profit making. It's been a long time and I don't remember. And his radical past was his radical past. I also remember his wife was a very dynamic woman who died much earlier, Jessie. And they were the best of what the SWP recruited. I didn't spend that much time around Detroit. I went there on the Hickman case.
What was the, I'm going to sidetrack a little bit into sort of color and detail and stuff, right? So how would you get there? Did you have a train?
No. You drove, it was a 5 to 6 hour drive from Chicago.
Which in your 20s is nothing, right?
Right, it wasn't, no, it was not.
Who got the car?
What?
Who got the car?
I don't remember. And you would see people at conventions. When I went to Detroit more often, it was in the period of the American Socialist.
Because that's where most of the energy was.
Well, that was the largest group, and that gave us our credibility. Our group in Chicago was the most dynamic, only in the sense that we had one thing. We didn't have the authority that my friends in Detroit did, or Flint. We didn't have the credibility in the labor movement, but we had one thing. We had youth. And we were probably 10 years younger than the group in Detroit and other groups, and youth is a great asset. In spite of the witch hunt, they made a special, wherever they could co-opt or integrate a black into the mainstream, they did it. In other words, I remember Henry McGee, who became the postmaster in Chicago, and Henry was close to the SWP. He wasn't a member, but he was close. He attended meetings, open meetings. He was president of the NAACP. And he had a hearing, and, they just brushed it over. He had to do all those things because he was head of the NAACP. And they did that with a lot. They were the only ones who, unless they were open members of the CP and they couldn't do it, or open members of the SWP, gave him a pass. In other words, and even the McCarthy didn't, for some, well, they had political reasons. They wanted to, this was the first group, not the ex-radicals, but the first group of blacks that were being incorporated into American society, and they weren't going to let the fact that they'd been involved with the radical movement interfere with what was their main thrust. And I was still friendly with Henry. For years after, I don't remember. I think what happened, I remember specifically, we lived near them in Hyde Park when I was married to Francois, and I remember them coming over, and they'd just been to China, and he wanted to show the slides, and his wife said, "Oh God, no." "Henry, do we have to?" And we were all relieved, because everybody who came back from China showed you the same slides of the Great Wall. I remember her saying, and I was very grateful.